Hey, it's Dave and Rich again from HouseBarons.com. Today we want to show you how to replace a sump pump. As you can see in this area right here, there's no doors on the walls. We had a flood, and because the sump pump failed. What we have here is one that's already in and working, and it's the aftermath of the flood. In the video you're going to see upcoming, I wasn't in a really happy mood to have water all in your basement and then you're waiting around in it trying to replace it. But here's the reality. If you have a sump pump failure, it's probably going to happen on a weekend or at night, and that's just extra expense if you have to call a plumber. And if you want to just deal with it and know how to get things fixed, I'm going to show you exactly how. It's not a super difficult process. Just knowing the parts and how it functions will go a long way into helping you figure out if you feel like you're able to do this or not. Two things about sump pumps before we get started. There are two varieties. One is a submersible, where the pump is in your sump pit. The submersible pumps have an advantage in that they're under the water, so they're quieter as they function. There's a disadvantage though, they don't last with a pedestal pump, which is the other variety. They sit outside your pit and they can last 5 to 15 years versus maybe a 5-year max on a sump pump, a submersible sump pump. So with a pedestal pump, you get longer life with the pump, but the one disadvantage it has is it's louder. So a submersible is in the water, and so it's somewhat muffled as it operates. The one outside the pit, the pedestal pump, is louder. So you're going to have to figure out what works best in your particular scenario before going any further. What I'm going to show you how to do today is how to replace a submersible sump pump, which is inside the pit. All right, here you can see the sump pump when it's all in and there's no rain, and so there's no water pouring into the sump pit. The sump pump is a little hard to see there. It's that black object down there. And then on the upper right and lower left are the two intakes where the water from around the foundation of the house come in through that pipe and that pipe over there. And when it's storming, that water just pours in there, and you're about to see that in this video. Okay, here we have an old nasty one. And when I got home last night, we found the basement full of water, and you can see we already got stuff on blocks. We had about an inch and a half, 2 inches of water in the whole basement. And as things go, some pumps tend to die. And how a sump pump works is water is pumps in through here, using this pump up through this fitting, and there's usually a pipe here, and then up the piping and out of the house. Well, sometimes these floats, when this goes to the bottom, it turns off. The pump turns off, and as water rises, this starts to go up. This float starts to go up and clicks the switch and turns it on, and then as the water goes out, the pump goes back down and turns off. So it's an on-off again deal. Well, for whatever reason, when I got home, I reached into the pit and jiggled this float, and it turned the sump back on. So sometimes they can get stuck for one reason or another, and maybe it's just time to change it out. So we're going to change the sump pump out. But last night, after we jiggled this pump, it started working again and started pulling out the water. So this is the height of the water right now. Right here, a corrugated black pipe that comes into the pit, and there's one on the other side. And these pipes surround the foundation of the house and let water drain into this pump and into this pit, and then it's pumped out of here. And so our sump pump is down inside this. We're going to go ahead and get rid of that. We're going to disconnect that one, pull it out, and put in a new one. Because we've had problems in this before, I've got a quick disconnect on our pipe, so it'll be a little bit of an easier process. But I'll show you how to do it otherwise, even if you don't have that quick disconnect. First thing you do is unplug your sump pump, and then mine. If I didn't have this disconnect, I could just go ahead and cut the pipe right here like it's been done in the past. But I've got this disconnect, so I can just unscrew it. Now I already did this once, and a ton of water came out. That's going to happen there's a check valve here, I believe, that'll stop a lot of the water. And that's as simple as it is to get rid of it. And this thing is, that's the old one right there. And now my next task at hand is to make sure that my new one is at the same height. So what I want to do here, this is where I'm going to install the new pipe. I'm going to install the new pipe in here, and it's got a female thread that's going to go here. We'll attach I got another piece of pipe for that. This one has to be right at this level to fit back into that pit exactly. So I'm going to go, I'll measure this. And when I'm done, mine here is 24 3/4. So when I'm done, I want the top of that to be at 24 3/4. Okay, one of the drawbacks of renovating houses is the house that we're renovating has all our tools, and it's 2 hours away. So I'm using an oil filter wrench strap here to see if I can take this off. At the base of this here. No, that's not going to work. All right, I'll use it. Okay, there we go. All right. So I can reuse this on my new pipe. And then when water, so it's going up, as water's pumping up, that opens, and then when water is done pumping, that seals shut, and that keeps it from water rushing back into the sump. So you want to have that check valve. Okay, so I've for this valve, and you got to make sure you put the valve on right, or you'll have a problem. So there's my ring. Put it under the pipe. My gasket that's going to seal it back up. My check valve. You want to be able to press it in from the underside and know that it's going to go in the correct direction. Okay. And then as you tighten it, it will make a seal. Okay, so that's good. So now I'm going to add my male end on there, and then when this screws in, it needs to be back at my 20. This height needs to be back at 23 or 24 3/4. So I've got to cut this pipe down a little bit, and so I can get it to the right height, and we'll be good to go. For this particular instance, I've got the blue water. This is wet or dry cement, and I forgot to do on this one. This is wet or dry cement, so it's good in cases like this where some of your parts might be wet. Mine, in this case, are all dry, but either way. So basically you prime both sides first, and then you hit them with the wet or dry cement, and then all you gotta do is put it in, put the pipe in, and give it like a quarter turn, and then hold it for a count of 10. And the reason you hold it is, this is kind of a chemical seal. It makes both pieces of the plastic interact, and then wants to force its way apart as it's doing that. All right, so that's good. So we're all measured up and everything's good. Now all you do is put it back in the pit, and we're good to go. Okay, so we've got got our pipe all assembled, and I had an extra cut to extend this a little bit just to get it dialed in right. But now it's just a matter of putting it in the hole, and the water's going to force this up, and there's a little switch right here that when it presses, it clicks. So that's how it turns itself on and off. So all we got to do is, and it comes with a nice little handle. So we'll put this guy down in there. Move it over now so it's in the right spot. And I'm trying to remember where this, yeah, there's where the plunger is. And make sure these cords come out and are not going to interfere with the actual plunger. And all we're going to do is connect this. Now, once I dry my hands off, we'll go ahead and plug that in. Just so you know, your sump pump should be on a GFCI, so you don't get electrocuted when you're doing this kind of stuff. But whenever you remove it, or while you're putting it in, make sure it's not plugged in. Okay. This one actually comes with two plugs, and so we put this one in first, and the other one piggybacks onto it. It's a good sound. All right, it really sounds like it's moving. Now, this in a typical setup, the pit would fill up with water, and then, or about 3/4 full, and then it would trigger the float, and it would turn on and pump that water out. But this pipe here and that pipe there go around the house, around the whole foundation of the house. They're full of water. So I was just doing the math, every foot of that pipe has maybe a half gallon of water. So we're talking about 100 feet of pipe. There's hundreds of gallons of water in each of these pipes. So it's going to take a while to catch up and get all that water that continues to come in pumped out of here. So it'll be a while, but hopefully this will do the trick and we'll be done with it. Okay, you can see the sump pump has done its job, and it's emptied the pit. And that inflow of side water there is still really pouring in from both sides, and that's why you have a sump pump, especially with all the water that must be saturated around this foundation. But anyway, it's not a terribly difficult job to do. And certainly it's good to know how to in case you ever get in that pinch when it's the late night hours and your sump goes out and you need to replace it. Alright, I hope this video helps your understanding of how to replace a sump pump. If it did help you, if you found out something new, go ahead and click the like button. That really helps us and we appreciate it. If you got any questions, go ahead and ask. We'll gladly get back to you just as soon as we can. Thanks again for viewing, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.